Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered what truly happens to the first person that passes out at a party? In popular belief, it's said that they wake up with a drawn mustache or slap themselves with cream after being tickled. But I believe those are merely the stories we're allowed to hear. So today, we're going to discover what really happens through Mortal Shell. An indie Soulslike developed by Cold Symmetry, in which the main protagonist gets blackout drunk from a single Fortnite chalice and ends up having his skin harvested, leaving him looking like a boiled crustacean, up until you inhabit a new shell. You could say you play as a skinwalker, as you adopt all the features of the corpse you suck. But I think it's more accurate to say that you play as a PP, as shells are not that different from condoms. Think about it. Without a shell, you get finished off prematurely, but with a shell, you have different inherent modifiers that change up the experience of the game. The first and foremost modifier is that you get a second chance. A lethal blow will merely blast you out of your shell, giving you the opportunity to reclaim it and keep the fight going. Though be careful, as without a shell, you're raw dogging your way through enemies and could die to something as little as a fart. The second modifier is stats, and they differ based on the shell you are using. Harros the Vassal, which is Latin for Pugger's natural comfort, has pretty average stats all around, as he is the introductionary shell. Eredrim the Venerable is akin to Pugger's extra safe, due to his Gynaminosaurus health bar and survivability favored skills. Solomon the Scholar has the highest amount of resolve, which is basically this game's magicka bar, used for weapon abilities and parry counters, meaning he can make great use of all the flashy moves the game provides, especially with his skills in mind. That level of texture of course correlates to Pugger's extra ribbed. And Tiel the Acolyte is the complete opposite of Eredrim, with his biggest stat being stamina and skills that focus on maintaining and utilizing it. Good for dodgy and evasive playstyles, but if you get hit, you're gonna feel it. So it's only appropriate to say he is the equivalent of Pugger's extra sensitive. With all that in mind, from within the tower, you can experience visions, nudging you in the general location of each shell respectively. You can do the same for weapons, which will lead you towards one of 3 temples that are integral to story progression. But most importantly, it's here that you can pet a of proportions, right beside the game's merchant, who is hidden at the back of the tower. I say hidden because I had absolutely no idea he exists, up until I was doing the Seeker of False Truths achievement, and one of the invisible texts on a mundane stone formation mentioned he is here. So take this as a lesson that being mindful and curious about your surroundings can be beneficial, because there's a plethora of consumables and upgrade materials to find within chests and crawl spaces. What I really like is that an item's benefit is only revealed after you use it, making the last item you find as exciting as the first. With each use, your familiarity with the item increases, and upon reaching its limit, you get an improved or additional bonus. So any bad experience you've ever had with crack could be chalked down to a lack of familiarity. Please, consider doing more crack. The goal of the game is to get lost in the STD-ridden Fognem while searching for 3 temples, each containing a gland desired by the biggest bird in the tower. The temples are not just some structures that house key items, but rather complete environmental overhauls, changing the scenery from green and murky to Skyrim beef jerky, Morrowind malarkey to even, God, I hate this place spelunky. With that also comes a change to enemy variety. Fighting the people responsible for writing the Borderlands 3 story back in Fognem gets boring quite fast, so it's very refreshing to shift the focus onto more abominable creatures and women. The most refreshing part of temples is the pacing, as they ditch the get lost element of Fognem in favor of a linear approach. Well, except for Seed of Infinity, which is just a massive wasteland. Granted, it's a beautiful one, but
do it look like I give a fuck? Do it look like I give a fuck and I don't?
Once you kill the boss of a temple, a spooky fog will take over the atmosphere, and you'll have to backtrack your way through the temple and its altered enemy positions. This, for the most part, is fine, up until you exit out to Fognem, where the same is happening. Except now, every Borderlands 3 writer turns into an Assassin's Creed fan, and these LARPers are just not fun to deal with, as they can jump on you from above, and the only thing you can do about it is react quickly enough to your seal's cue that lets you know you're about to get hit by an unparryable attack. Speaking of which, the combat in Mortal Shell is fair and responsive. Given enough experience, you can efficiently deal with any enemy attack via dodge rolling, parrying, or since we've established he plays a PP, hardening. Unlike in real life, here you don't need a consumable to become rock hard. All you need to do is think of Millennia as you press the correlated key, turning you hard enough to nullify any attack coming your way without interrupting the continuity of your actions. This isn't a fancy spin on blocking, this allows you to approach engagements in a refreshing manner, creating openings where there are none. And it's also your most reliable way of staying alive.
I'll get you, bitch.
Mortal Shell does not have a healing flask of sorts, as is typical to Souls-like games. There are only 2 traditional healing sources to find here, and they do very little to keep you alive. For more reliable sources, you need to turn to consumables that turn damage taken while hardened into health, successful parries granting health, or the healing riposte that can be activated upon a successful parry, if the necessary resolve is present. I personally recommend you consider
getting good
and use the comedic sound effect riposte instead. That's if you even bother parrying. I found it too odd to master, as it's more about timing the enemy's animation rather than reacting when the attack would naturally land. As for bosses, there's 4 big bads, and they range anywhere from absurdly easy to sufficiently intensive. I wish there was more, but Mortal Shell is an indie game made by like 15 people.
Okay.
The only thing that rubbed me the wrong way in Mortal Shell is not being able to crawl back. When the PP entered the hole, the PP cannot be pulled out. So if there's an alerted enemy on the other side, you will have to pay child support. But why does all of this take place? What cruel fate sentenced you to run around as a phallic organ, birthed from the wet embrace of some ethereal realm? I honestly don't know. The thing about these passive storytelling games is that if there is no key moment that sparks my intrigue, I won't really bother reading text that would contextualize the world and give it depth. I'm sure there's something interesting to uncover if you read all the lore, but to be truthful, I just
don't care. I don't.
The Virtuos Cycle is the only DLC for Mortal Shell, and it does 2 things. The first is bringing a new shell and weapon to the base game, those being the Axatana, a cool weapon that can be changed from slow hard hitting to fast mid hitting, with the interesting feature of occasionally freezing your character and forcing you to load a save, and the shell for Hadern, the Deliverer, a shell that lets you mix and match the skills of other shells, creating the combination that works best for you. A prime example of Pooger's real feel. The second is the Virtuos Cycle game mode, a roguelite on the Soulslike foundation that follows the same concept of the base game with random drops, enemies, and perks that are lost upon death. The only thing that you carry over with each run is consumables, meaning that after a bit of farming, you can maximize all of the passive modifiers within the runic gate. To make matters easier, you can input the seed you want to play on, guaranteeing you spawn at the same point, fight the same enemies, and get the same loot from chests, turning the game mode into a cakewalk. The good about it is that you don't have to backtrack temples after defeating a boss, as you're teleported directly to the next temple of choice. The bad is that you have to go through Seed of Infinity 7 times if you want to complete the story of this DLC, which requires getting 7 seeds, 1 per completion. The poggers is that there are dozens of challenges to complete, all of which can be trivialized with various seeds that can be found in the description. All in all, I'd say Mortal Shell is a wonderful Souls-like that comes with great sound design, interesting concepts, and fluid execution, making the game a robust experience. I managed to raw dog my way through the game without balding due to bullshit encounters, a sign that this game is a smooth sail to the adaptable, which is why the final rating for Mortal Shell is an unsurprising out of 10. That's about it. Don't forget to slap like, slap wife, it's good, and I'll catch ya next time.